Okay, I'm going to call to order our meeting of the Library Board of Trustees. Today is July 13th, and we are at the Beaufort Library. So I will call to order, which I did. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Terry Thomas will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Okay, I'll introduce everybody sitting here. So, Joe Bogas is from the new District 10.
I'm in District 10.
Yes. And
Okay.
Bernie's absent. Is Lynn on the phone?
Yes.
Okay, Lynn Miller, also from District 10, is called in online. And Brenda Latson-Powell from District 1. Thank you. We have is Roz on the phone?
Not yet.
Okay, she's not here. Tracy Robinson is our representative from District 4. And we have, I'm the representative from Council District 6. I'm the chair, Cabinet. Terry Thomas is District 2. And James couldn't be with us, and then Janet will be with us in a minute. We have Josh as our Deputy Director. I got it right this time?
Yes.
Thank you very much. We have Alice Howard represents, she's our liaison to County Council. She's from District 4. We have Chuck Atkinson, County Administrator, who makes sure we stay on the straight and narrow path. Okay, I'll get to you. And then I have Amanda Dickman. She is our Director of Library Services. And you can, and we have
Alec Bishop from Broadcast Services.
Alec from Broadcast Services, yes.
And I have 3 staff members who will be a part of my director's report. They are Tracy Cox, who is our Marketing and Communications Manager, Teresa Furbish, who I introduced in the previous meeting as our Programs and Events Librarian, and Cheryl Campbell, who is the manager of our Technical Services Department, and I will introduce them in just a few minutes.
Oh, great. Okay, there is no public comment since, but okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from May 11?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from May 11th.
Thank you, Tracy. And Joe will second it. All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Anybody opposed has to rewrite them. That's your job. Thank you. And just for the public, we get all of our minutes sent electronically so everyone has time to see it before the meeting. Corresponding membership, we don't have anything. So I'm going right to the library director report, which would be Amanda.
Good evening. I hope you're having a wonderful summer. We are having an excellent summer at Beaufort County Libraries. Right now, I'm going to give you a personnel update. At present, we have 7 vacancies, 3 vacancies in the process of being filled, and continuing to actively review applicants to get fully staffed.
Amanda, just to put that in perspective, I think that's the least number of vacancies we've had in a long time.
Last meeting, I was telling you there was 12.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Wow.
good. I mean, that didn't happen overnight. Good, congratulations to you.
We're trying our best. Next, I would like to mirror our county administrator's his tradition of introducing staff. I like that, and I admire that in his presentations to county council, and I've been doing that for you so that you get to meet our frontline staff, and as also they get to see you and what you do. So Cheryl Campbell, if you'll take a position at the podium, please. As Cheryl gets there, let me tell you who Cheryl is. Cheryl Campbell has been with Beaufort County Library since 2017. She was hired as a reference librarian at the Hilton Head Library. She worked with Josh and
She
survived.
put up with me for a long time.
And survived. You got that part.
She also has a storied career before that of excellent service in both school and private sector and journalism. She is with us now. She was promoted in around 2018, I believe, 2019, no, 2020, along with me. You were promoted in 2020 to the manager of technical services. And let me tell you what that department does. Our technical services department does not work on a front desk. They do not answer directly customer calls or emails, but that department is single-handedly responsible for making sure every invoice for every item we have purchased, whether physical or digital, is paid, and not only paid, but paid by the appropriate funding source, as well as processed and made available in our catalog and also on the shelf. She has a very robust team that is lean in numbers, but mighty in power and efficiency. This year, she'll be a little embarrassed for me to praise her for this publicly, but I believe in giving praise where it is due. This year, Cheryl has been immensely instrumental in our transition to Hoopla Flex, as well as the person who was tasked with sorting through vendors for New York Times online access as well as Wall Street Journal. So our big 3 digital collection improvements, you have this woman's hard work to thank. So this is Cheryl Campbell, Head of Technical Services Department.
All right. That is great, those 3 online services.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good work getting that up and running.
Did you have anything that you wanted to say to our library board? of
I'm
trustees?
just excited about the future. I feel like we've been kind of dog paddling in the shallow end, but recently, well, with digital services, not physical, but with digital, we dove deep into the deep end, and lots more coming, lots of challenges, but it's very exciting. So I hope you all appreciate the efforts Amanda and all of us have put in.
Could you give the audience, there are people that watch this, I do know. Could you just talk about those 3 services just a little bit more, like the Wall Street Journal and how they access it, for those that didn't see the announcement that much?
Sure. New York Times, you can access via app. You will get a code. You need to set up your personal account, and then you can access the New York Times. Wall Street Journal works a little differently. You have to go to the Beaufort County Library website first, and there will be a link to access it from there. And it will give you 3 days of access before you have to revisit the library website and go again. They do not have, they have an app, but only if you pay for it out of your own pocket. With the library, you have to go through the link on the library website. Hoopla, I think you're all probably familiar with what we have had. Flex is a little different. I've been learning a lot myself with publishers and access, metered license versus perpetual versus instant download. That's, any questions?
The Wall Street Journal, I saw you get it 3 days. Then you gotta go back, I haven't done it yet. Then you
Yes.
gotta go back, you get it 3 more days or longer? So it's every 3 days you have to go back?
Yes,
Oh,
every
that
time
one.
you log in and
Okay.
still you'll set up an account that will give you access for 3 days.
Okay.
In a
Is there
row.
some magic about 3 days or
I
is it
have
just?
no idea, that's a very good question. I'll see if I can find out.
So you
Right
have to
now,
set
that's their model.
So you have to set up a new account every.
No, you'll have one account, you just
Okay.
get a different code.
Code.
And they have your email, so they send you, today your code is 5309 or something.
They keep a very tight rein on access. I'm finding that digitally, that they're very, what's that word?
Gatekeepers?
You're too young to forget a word like that.
Sorry, I'm nervous.
As she mentioned,
Forgive me.
We don't bite, we don't bite.
I'm glad.
as she mentioned, we are encouraging all users, especially with the new access to New York Times, Wall Street Journal, we're encouraging them to go through the library's portal so that whether it's 1 day for the New York Times for the code redemption or 3 days for Wall Street Journal, and if you go through our portal, it doesn't matter whether it's 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, you're getting the code every time. And so on the back end is authenticating you for access.
Okay.
So we just encourage you to go through our website first,
Thank you.
as she said.
So, yeah,
Yes.
question. You know, I'm one of those who use and read the New York Times, so I appreciate your efforts there. The interface, though, is a little clunky. because you have to go to the library to get a code, and then sign in. Is there any possibility of that being extended for multiple days as you have with the Wall Street Journal?
I think the Wall Street Journal, well, both papers have probably, I think New York Times has offered digital
Yeah.
access longer. The Wall Street Journal, I think, is learning also with the digital access. I fully expect them to have more options available, but right now, that is the only model they offer.
Okay.
I
Okay
know
with
it's
it.
frustrating. Baby steps.
Okay.
Well, thank you for doing it for our
Okay,
patrons.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
good.
happy to. It's a privilege.
Anybody have a question, another question? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
I want to go over a few brief points about our library operations and just kind of update you on a couple of things that I'm working on. Number one, in my monthly report to you, I gave on the very back page a comparison of June 2019, June 2020, June 2021, and June 2022. Because I personally wanted to see how our Junes are stacking up. In June 2019, everything was normal. We issued 1,170 new library cards. We welcomed 53,000 people in the door. We circulated almost 71,000 physical items and an additional 10,000 digital items. In June of 2020, which COVID was our first summer of COVID, June 2021 was our recovery from COVID, still COVID being among us. But June 2022, even though COVID we know is still among us, if you look, we have only issued 5 less library cards this summer than we did in 2019. We welcomed 20,000 less people, but yet we're only 5,000 less in terms of items going out of the door. And our digital is up 5,000. So if you look at those numbers, and they're only numbers and they tell a part of the story, but the numerical part of the story, I just want to communicate to you from my analysis and my perspective, this looks assuring, encouraging that our libraries are vibrant and we have weathered a pandemic.
So, I mean, first of all, thanks for putting these numbers in perspective. But I was curious when I looked at this about the reference numbers. And what would have happened that,
Why are they more
why are they so
now?
much more? What do you think that is?
I believe that our reference teams are fielding more and more questions about how to use the New York Times, how to use Hoopla Flex, how to use this. We're
Well, those
fielding
go under reference, then, so.
any how to or where do I find or how do I get, those are all reference questions. Even as our libraries are opening our doors to host more and more services, as in next door to us is the South Carolina State Plus representatives helping people sign up for rent and utility assistance through the statewide program. So when people are calling and asking, how do I get connected to this, how do I access that, that's where those questions come from. So more and more, not only are our collections in demand, but our staff and staff assistance as well.
That's a big jump.
That is a big jump. The next thing I want to announce is I've talked to you briefly about a marketing platform that we were hoping to acquire. It is called Patron Point. It is the only communication and marketing tool that exists primarily and solely for libraries to utilize in order to engage their card holders. We have acquired it through Beaufort County IT. They saw the need to provide this to us. And what Patron Point does is it allows our marketing and communications manager, coordinator, administrative team to directly email every single library card holder that has an email address on file. It allows us to provide an online library card registration fully, not reviewed by a staff member and then a staff member reaching out to that person, but a full online portal for online library card registration. And it allows us to customize those automatic library notices so they don't get this block text that looks like it came from a typewriter in 1970, but that it actually has the library brand and the library logo. It also allows us to do surveys to all card holders, which would have been fantastic in the strategic plan process. I just want to let you know that this is an incredible tool that Tracy is in the process of learning how to harness and put into practice so that we are not only engaging cardholders at the moment of registration, but throughout weekly, monthly, however the process, to let them know not only that they can use the library, but how to use the library. So we'll talk in a few minutes about the strategic plan, but this is already in response to increased desire by community members to hear more about what the library offers and how to use it.
So Amanda, if someone signs in fully to get a new library card, their library card's digital?
It won't be a digital card, it'll still be a physical card, but
Which will be
immediately,
mailed to you.
it won't be mailed to them, they'll still need to come to get a physical card, but immediately they will be issued their barcode number so they can start using it right away.
So they still have to physically go to the library.
To get a physical card, yes. The next thing is hours of operation. So since we are starting to see numbers returning to pre-COVID, it's time to talk about our hours of operation and get those back to normal levels. I do not have a proposal for you today, but I want to let you know that I am working with each branch manager and our administration team to bring a proposal of an expansion of hours to you in the September meeting. In 2019, prior to the pandemic, our branches were open between 50 and 55 hours. That's weekend, weeknight, and weekend. Right now, they're operating 46 hours a week, so we're not that far apart. But we do know that we need to be able to extend those closing times to better accommodate people who are working. And our staffing has not changed since 2019. So we still have the same number of positions. So it's logical to assume that we can go back to normal hours. And now I'm going to introduce Tracy and Teresa to give you a very brief update on how well our summer reading program is going.
Hello.
Hi. Like Amanda said, we'll be brief. The next meeting, we might showcase a little bit more. But we wanted to talk about the summer reading program today. And so our summer reading program started June 1st, and we're nearing the end. It ends on July 30th. Our summer reading program this year, the centerpiece of our summer reading program are these 2 reading logs. They're almost identical in pace, you could say. Thank you. So Teresa is holding up the children's version of the reading log, but many adults have said they want to color the inside just like the kids, so we welcome that. We kind of modeled it after a Highlights magazine where customers get to color in a sea creature each time they complete 1 day worth of reading. When they finish the first column, and I can hold this if you'd like, short prizes. When they get to the bottom of the first column, they bring in their reading log to the library, and a staff member will stamp the reading log, and they will get their first prize. And the reader reward card is the first prize this year. It's similar to last year's treat card. We had 13 sponsors this year agree to be a reader reward card sponsor. And what that means is if a customer takes this card to any one of those establishments, they get a free treat. No purchase necessary. It's good for kids, babies, adults, teens, all ages. So every person that made it through this first column on the reading log gets that card. And I skipped ahead a little bit. This is our, thank you. The adult and /teen version, or kid if they want to write the titles in. They can follow along the reading program just the same way. Instead of coloring, they're just writing the title of what they're reading at the same time. So each line represents a day worth of reading. Now, if they make it down to the second column of completion, they bring that back to the library and they get another stamp, and then they get to choose between a variety of prizes.
All right, for kids, or babies, I should say, or early literacy, they get a fun little bath squirter. If you want to see the plethora of different options on your way out, you can see it at the front desk. For school-age children, they get this fun little kit and they get to create a boat. And then for the adults, they get the option to choose between a water bottle, this is adults and teens, or It's a flashlight that also turns into a pen. And it has a nifty little thing so you can keep it around your neck.
Teresa, are you
Especially for
auditioning
hurricane.
for Vanna White? She's
That is
like,
my
you are so Vanna White.
If this
To wear
library,
everywhere.
it's nice if this library thing doesn't work out, we have a backup plan.
Always plan B.
So the stage that we've just reached the June 30th mark, so now anyone that has completed the reading log has completed the third column there, and they get, depending on their age, children get to choose a free book, they get a reading medal, this is always a favorite of the little ones, they get a reading medal, they get a reading certificate, and they get a grand prize entry slip. The adults get
It's a bookmark and it's full of wildflowers. So you can either, if you have a physical self-standing home, you can plant it in your garden in the backyard. If you live in an apartment, for example, you can still enjoy it with a pot on your windowsill. So it's very versatile. And teens receive a free book.
Yes, they also get a free book, and everybody gets a grand prize entry form. So this is the first year we've done a super reader bonus round. And what this is if someone has completed all their reading and they completed the original reading log, they can pick up a super reader bonus round. It's another 10 sea creatures or a line, and this gives them an additional entry into the grand prize drawing. So this year I brought our little poster to kind of showcase. We had over 100 sponsors in our community provide gifts, and these aren't small gifts. These are usually at a minimum, it's a $10 gift card, it's a $25 gift card, $50 gift card, we have some $100 gift cards. Some of them are kayaking adventures, camping adventures, we have some cool electronic toys for kids, so there are some wonderful grand prizes, and we have over 200 grand prizes to give away. As of today, we have over 700 that have completed the summer reading program. This year was constructed to have a lot of wiggle room days so that you don't have to follow it to the letter every single day. We understand people go on vacation, some nights are crazy. So we are still finishing up the summer reading program, and we look forward to getting that total tally after July 30th.
So completed means they did all 3 columns?
They did all 3 columns, yeah, and some may choose to spread that out through the 2 months of June and July. Some of our super readers may have read every single day, and then they would have finished the reading logs by June 30th, but if they're a super reader, they could pick up the super reader bonus round, and they can do up to 3 of those rounds in order to squeeze in 3 more additional entries for grand prize entry slips. So our super readers really get a great chance at winning one of these grand prizes.
And doing 3 of them depends on when they started. So for example, if they had started as soon as they turned in their reading log on June 30th, if the next day they started super reader bonus round, there's another set of 3 sets of 10 days in July, so that's how they could do extra. But if for some reason you're turning in your reading log today and you're getting your super reader bonus round, you might not be able to get 3, but you might get additional ones. And along with the summer reading program, not just the portion of reading and interacting with books, we've also had a number of awesome programs that have been funded by numerous organizations. We've had the South Carolina Aquarium come. They came to the waterfront park right over here, which was huge actually. I think we had over 350 attendees for that one alone. They visited 3 other branches on top of that, and collectively we had nearly 800 attendees enjoy that. They had a little presentation, and the kids actually got to do a little touch tank portion too, which was really fun. We had an artist from Connecticut come and do a virtual program. He did 2 sessions. And for virtual, we actually had really great turnout. We had over 100 people come in and enjoy, all ages, school-age kids, even some adults with the parents and grandparents. And we also, today was the first day we had reptiles from the Port Royal Sound Foundation. I just actually got back right before this from Levico, and we had nearly 70 people attend that. It was outside, it was hot, but the kids had a blast. They got to see baby gators, snakes, all sorts of stuff, and tomorrow we're finishing it up at Bluffton. So there have been a lot of great things for families this summer, and people of all ages.
It's been busy but fun.
So Amanda, I had somebody ask me in my book group who knew about the summer reading program if they could contribute money just to the summer reading program?
The best way to do that would be through the Friends of the Library group that serves that branch. So on Hilton Head, it would be through a donation earmarked specifically for use with summer reading to the
Oh,
Friends of Hilton Head Library, or the Friends of Bluffton, or the Friends of Beaufort. That's the easiest way for us to utilize that donation.
And that's easy on the website?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question for you about summer reading. Did, when you went around with the bookmobile, did they hand out those to,
We've been
like,
doing
our
those on.
So have the people that visit the bookmobile, specifically Sun City, gotten into that and get excited about it?
Yeah, I think some city folks, some of them have just started doing the reading program because the way that the stops work with the bookmobiles, unfortunately, not all of them had their first stop on June
Correct,
1st. So some of them are still trickling in. I will say Bookmobile South has had at least 3 adult finishers from Sun City already. So that's great because they may have picked it up at a branch and then returned it to Bookmobile, for example. But they are still in the process and they're very confident they're going to have a lot of kid and adult finishers and teens.
Once the entire program's over, we'll be able to kind of export the data and like find out exactly where everyone is finishing, what location they're
Great.
Thank you.
And at that point, that concludes my director's report.
at.
Good job, Mary, good job.
And I will say, if you haven't turned in your reading log yet, the front desk is right here.
Can you update us on the food program?
Yes.
I'd like us to hear about that.
In addition to the summer reading program, all 5 branch libraries are sites for free summer lunches. You may have seen the commercials on TV called the Summer Cafe or Summer Break Cafe. In South Carolina, those are done at libraries and parks and all sorts of places. Beaufort County Library is proud to offer that every day, Monday through Friday, through the end of July for any student under the age of 17 who would like to come in and get a meal. I would like to say publicly that that's an extra thing that we ask library staff to do. The organizers do not bring a person to administer or serve the lunches. Our staff go and pick it up every day. They bring it, they set it up, they tear it down, they clean up. It's an extra thing that they do, but they believe wholeheartedly in the mission of it and that it is helping ensure food security in Beaufort County.
That's the part I wanted our people to hear, that the staff is an integral part of that.
And on average, how many kids is that a day?
It depends. This branch today had 2 coolers full of ham and cheese sandwiches, so that was probably 50 to 60 lunches. They based on their turnout every day, they try to make sure that they eliminate any potential wasting of food. So they're constantly gauging attendance so that they make the lunches as accurate as possible. I don't know. I was at a midday appointment.
They were.
But we will have, I will have data post summer to be able to share with you about how many lunches were served at each location. Lubico typically gets a good turnout every day as well, as does St. Helena. It's one of the things historically that really drives visits in the summer to St. Helena branch.
And tell us what they get for lunch.
It changes every day.
Give an example.
Uh,
Ham and cheese we heard.
Ham and cheese, there's been chicken sandwich, like a chicken wrap I've seen, there's been a salad one day. There's a
How'd
menu
that go?
on the door. Yeah.
The menu is outside that door. And they get that and a drink.
They get that, typically milk choice, a fruit option and a vegetable option.
So when do they get an ice cream option?
I don't
It
believe that
is
is.
90 degrees. And maybe on the last day of food, the library gets free for ice
I
cream or
tell you what,
something.
as a free, prize number 1 of summer reading, they get a free card to go to Brewster's and get 3 scoops.
Oh, okay. I was just thinking
So
on
we've
the
already
last day.
provided that through our sponsors.
So on the last day, maybe they could all get ice cream.
I just want to commend you too,
Something.
getting that many sponsors. I don't know who was.
We have a staff team of each nominated people from each branch library that volunteers to be a part of a prize committee.
That was,
I couldn't believe what do you have, like 50 sponsors?
100.
100.
Over 100?
Yeah.
I mean, that's good for the sponsorship team.
What's also beneficial about that, or what the part of that that I really appreciate, is that year after year, those sponsors return. So they're seeing the return on their investment, and they appreciate the opportunity to reward reading as well.
How many did we have last year in this one?
About the same amount.
Yeah, it's a great program, I'm glad we have it. Thank you. So I'm gonna skip right down to the Finance Committee report. Joe Bogas is the chair, I'm on it, Lynn Miller's on the phone, Terry Thomas, and James couldn't be with us today. So you're up, Joe.
Okay, thanks, Deb. What we have today, actually, we have quite a bit of material to go over, so I'll take it kind of step by step. But I want to start off by saying that what we're looking at here is the end of our full fiscal year. So this gives us an opportunity to really put things into perspective and to look backward and forward and to see exactly where we are and what we've done. Now, as quickly as I say that, let me say, and Josh is over there, these are really unofficial and unaudited numbers. They are early numbers, but they will give us a directionality. Again, we're not basing financial decisions on this information, but we're really looking at our status and looking at directionality. How are we doing? Where are we going? Do we have enough funds? And the short answer is yes. As the director pointed out, we have vacancies, we have hours that are still not at where they were pre-COVID. So yes, we are underspent, and at the same time, we do have a good impact fee balance. So with that, let me also say that looking forward, as we look into fiscal year 2023, I think we'll see more normal spending, closer to 100% of spending, versus where we are today. So what I'd like to do is really to go back over the forms as we have before and start with the special fund page, which is in your packet here, and we'll look on the left-hand column and start with state aid lottery. And as we said before at the last meeting, we've received our final installment of state aid. We've gotten in $365,000, and we have spent $364,000 and change, which leaves us with a tidy little balance carryover of $238,000. All of this income, again, is directed towards library materials, and you'll see these numbers reflected when we get into the materials expenditure report. But this is a good number here. We've received the money, we've spent the money, and we have a really meager carryover balance. Now, jumping over into the next column here, looking at impact fees, you'll see that we've risen to 5.8 million, rounded up, versus where we were last in our last report. Since May, we've gained 83,000, and that is actually all the receipts that we had in this reporting period. We had income of $83,345. 60% of that comes from the Bluffton district, followed by St. Helena with 24, and Hilton Head and Bluffton, each only contributing 7%. There were no expenditures during this reporting period, so everything that we got went really down to the bottom line here. And as a footnote, as I said, we're at $5.8 million rounded, our fiscal year ending balance, which is up $600,000 from last fiscal year. So during this period, we've had a nice income gain, again, considering that we've had expenditures during this period for the Bluffton renovation. And we'll get into this more in detail. But the going away message is that we've had a nice increase of income versus expenses of $600,000 gain versus where we were. So we're at 5.8 million. Now, to put that again into perspective, we do have sort of what we call encumbered obligations, funds that we've set aside and earmarked for certain projects. So we have New Riverside, or whatever it is that we call it these days.
Just say New Branch.
New library. Okay. Land, we have $1 million set aside, so put that number up there. Design fees of another $500,000. Possible Bluffton Phase 2, $45,000, and and Hilton Head A&E study of about 50,000. So looking at all these sort of encumbered obligations that we have, they total about 1.6 million, but we have 5.8 million. So we're looking at a nice, healthy balance here. This is healthy, and we're building up a nice balance for as we go forward. So we're able to meet our obligations as we see them.
Joe, before you leave impact fees,
Yeah.
for the audience, explain where impact fees money comes from,
Okay.
in case they're not
Yeah,
aware.
yeah. I'm not an expert here, but I understand.
Just a basic overview.
Yeah, the basic premise is that impact fees are monies pulled from or contributed to by contractors and builders as new construction projects come about in the impact fee area, which is really the Beaufort County here. Those monies will vary depending on the size of the facility, whether it's a single family, multifamily, whether it is commercial. And we have at this point 5 impact fee districts. And the monies that come from each district have to be spent for activities in that particular district. And I guess that's part of what our accounting staff, our finance staff has to wrestle with. Over time, we've had healthy construction and building in Beaufort County, so we have at this point built up a surplus of fees versus identified expenditures at this time. Impact fees are generated not just by the library, but from other impact fee districts in the county. So there is emergency services impact fees, road and construction impact fees, and I think mosquito abatement district also has it. So we're one of several different organizations, facilities in the county that derive this income from construction activities. Basically, you could say that the construction is paying it forward, that it is contributing towards the capital obligation that the new construction entails. There's a major study here which the county has pulled together to look at this and to identify future impact fee levels and how it should be derived. In the future, the 5 districts will be distilled down to 2 districts, north and south of the Broad. And the idea is that the fee only contributes to what the construction area, let's say, consumes in terms of the facility expense. So I hope that that's a thumbnail freshman introduction to
That's
impact
fine.
fees.
Thank you.
Okay. And then the last column here, we have special trusts. And there's really 2 here, which is really sort of the endowment, the BAG fund, and Beaufort District Collection.
What is it paid?
Since last reporting district, we had a small,
Is that
this
this
is the, this
She's
is in
asking-
your packet.
She's asking what the B&G
The
fund
bag
is.
fund.
Bag
It
fund.
is short for Big
Bag-
Anonymous
the bag
Gift,
fund,
and it was
Big
given a
anonymous
long,
gift, I think it's the
Yeah.
shorthand for it.
it was given a long time ago for use now for the Beaufort District Collection.
And where does that show up here?
It's on the far right column.
In the right.
Far right to the top. Okay. There's 217,000 in there. And in that area, we had a small gain of $147, which is really interest. And then out of Beaufort District Collection, there was a small expenditure of $292 for materials. So that really wraps up where we are here. The short answer is that yes, we have gotten money in from the state, we've spent it well, and our impact fee balance is looking good. Now, I'd like to jump over to our budget report, and this will be pretty brief here. As I mentioned, we are looking at the full fiscal year of expenditure here. And if you drop down to the bottom here, you'll see that our allocation was 4.1 million. We spent 3.8, or $281,000 unspent against the allocation. What we have spent is 93% of both personnel services and operating expenses. So the 2 are pretty much in balance here. So during this, looking at this full year, we spent 93% of our allocation. Where we were in the last period was really quite a bit different. I think we were at about 84%. So what this is reflecting is that there's been a pickup, there's been an acceleration in spending levels. We're coming back closer to normal spending in the last 2 months of this year. So for this full fiscal year, we've left unspent 281,000. We spent 93,000. No, we spent 93%, both in personnel and in operating expenses. Okay.
Before you move on, I just want to point out to you that the unspent personnel really is because for most of the fiscal year, we carried a number of vacancies. That money is just never drawn out of the county's account. So it's not money that we had and it goes back, it's just money we never took out. It was allocated for library personnel funds, but it's not money I can put towards another year or any other use.
Yeah.
I will point out what he mentioned is that we've spent everything but, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong here, in our operating, aside from personnel, we cut it as close to the penny as we could without accounting for an increase in a book or a processing fee or something. We cut it as close as we could with a very minimal cushion of about $1,000 left on the table.
Yeah, on that note, I'd just like to point out one line here, which is library materials, which is where I hold the director's feet to the fire. And you'll notice that it is 99% spent. And we'll get more into this in the next report here. But just to give you an idea how close this is monitored by the director and the staff.
What happened with the equipment rentals, were only 18%?
That's due to the vendor that the county has and how that vendor lets the county know what the bills are, when they're due, and that sort of thing. So that's why it's important that we always have unofficial and unaudited, because usually what happens is finance has to go and say, okay, there are things that haven't been officially paid for, and we need to know what those bills are so we can pay them. So that's, some of those numbers are likely going to change, but.
And the last page in our financial reports is material expenditures. And if you look down to the bottom right-hand number, you'll see $738,000 was spent on materials in this fiscal year. And I'd like to tip my hat to, again, the director and her staff here. If I'm correct, this is a record spending level for Beaufort County. This exceeds my expectation. If you remember, as Tracy does, at the last meeting, I projected our spending would be $738,000, and actually the director and the staff came in at spending $600 more than what I had projected, which is the sum of all available monies that were identified at that time. So they've done really a remarkable job. I hold this report in really high regard, because if we look at the drivers that bring people into our libraries, it is the materials, it is the stuff that they can take away. Yes, we have hoopla, and yes, we have meeting rooms and then programs, but yet it is the materials that bring people in. And you take a look at where people go when they hit the library, and the first thing, the new bookshelves. Is where they congregate, that's where they look. Now, to sort of take a look at this, and because it is interesting to look at this again over time. And I do want to point out that last year, we spent $612,000. This year we spent $738,000. So year after year comparison, this is quite a jump. And not just in terms of sheer dollars, but also in terms of percent. And then we take a look at this report here. Most of our spending here is really for hoopla. And then followed by leased books, 37% for hoopla, 27% for leased books here. And again, this is showing sort of a migration in terms of dollar emphasis away from physical materials more into the digital side of the library. And we'll get into more of this also. The majority of our dollars, where we get the money here, is really from the state aid lottery, 329,000, which is again the number that I mentioned earlier. And then followed by the county at 36%, and then Friends at 14%. So again, this represents really tremendous effort and I say a step in the right direction for library staff.
Could
So
you explain-
that concludes at least the forward part of our report on financial state of our library. Are there any questions or comments before we move on to the
Joe,
next page?
Joe, could you explain the 103,144 is under lease from the Friends?
I can.
Yeah.
So we total, right there, right under $200,000 goes to getting lease plans at each branch library and bookmobile. That is the way that we provide multiple copies of popular materials, but not have to keep a forever copy. So we rent 5 James Pattersons, purchase 1. That makes, and so our leases help us to have the Lucky Day collection, which the Friends purchased, which is a part of their 103,000. So the Friends of Hilton Head, the Friends of Bluffton, the Friends of Beaufort each pay for a Lucky Day collection that has no holes, no weight. If it's here and available on the shelf, they get to take it home that day. Then several of the Friends groups also pay for the robust adult lease plan for that branch.
Okay, so when you think about a lease, I was thinking of a building, a car,
No, it's
you don't
collection.
think about that.
It's the
lease
hot
of
and
collections.
popular extra to reduce wait times and meet the demand of a newly released book.
Okay. Now, also in your packet is the budget for next year. And you'll see that identified as fiscal year '23. And let me point out just a few things here preliminarily so that we're all comfortable with our numbers here. The budget for fiscal year '23, you see is really 4.4 million versus 4.2 million, which is where we were this year. When we take a look at what we've spent this year, 3.8 million versus 4.4 million for next year, we have a nice gain. The allocation for personnel services next year or this year versus last year is up 9%. The total budget is up 6%. The materials, library materials expenditures is really where it was. We're at 100% parity between the 2 years. So looking at the budget for next year, I would say that we are comfortable. I think the numbers here reflect anticipated staff increases, which the county will administer throughout the year. But I say we are comfortable going into fiscal year 2023.
As Joe mentioned, those increases in personnel cost has to do with the implementation of salary and compensation study in which all county employees were subject to a percentage increase in their salary to match the market research, in addition to, thank you, Alice, and committee for approving a 5% cost of living increase. So that's where that adjustment is. It's not new positions. I just want to be clear about that. It's not new positions, but it is just more compensation for our existing employees.
Yeah, and if you take a look at the 9% increase here, and today's headlines that inflation is running 9.1%, pretty much on target. Now, also in your packet, the last document here I want to go through is something which I've identified as sources and uses of funds. And sources and uses of funds is a nice financial document that they taught me at American University. And currently I think it's called Statement of Cash Flow. So I'm a little bit out of date when I'm going to use the title. But the purpose of this is that every 2 months when we meet, we take a look at our financial documents kind of individually, one by one. We look at impact fees, we look at county expenditures, we look at what we get from the Friends. And at this point, at the end of the fiscal year, this document here allows us to kind of pull everything together, to capsulize it, and to take a look at where our funds came from and what we did with it, and what it costs to run the library as a whole. All income from all sources and all outgo to all deliverables. And that's really what this is. So I pulled this together and looked at all the funding that we had throughout the year. Where did it come from? Because it comes from various sources. It's not just from the county, but we get it from the state, we get it from the big anonymous gift, we get it from the friends. So on the left-hand side, we have the sources, and on the right-hand side, we have the uses. So let's start at the top here. What we got from the county, and this reflects our expenditure here, not the allocation, but the actual expenditures. We got 3.8 million. That's 73% of all the funds that we had. We had impact fee receipts for the year, just under $1 million. We got another $365,000 from state aid lottery, which we talked about, that goes to materials. Friends of the library came in at $103,000. And then the rest of it was just minor funding that we got from various things. The bag fund, big anonymous gift fund, that's really interest income. And our special trust, the Beaufort County District Collection, we actually had a fund drawdown. We spent money over what we took in. And then the endowments, special trust, we got interest on that. Now, altogether, $5.3 million flowed into the library. Now, what did we do with that? Well, the majority of it was on personnel services, 64%. Library materials came in next at 14%. Impact fee gain. So this is the amount that our impact fee grew over expenditures. Okay, 600,000. And if you remember early on, I said our impact fee went from 5.2 million to 5.8 million. So this is where it came from. We got in almost $1 million in impact fees. Next line, we spent about $355,000 for Bluffton expenditures. We had a gain of about $600,000. So it went from 5.2 to 5.8, and this is where the money went. Operating expenses were minor, 3%, and the rest of it is just small amounts that kind of went out here and there. Beaufort County Direction, we had materials spend, endowment, and then the state aid lottery, we had a slight gain. So from all the sources, we took in 5.3 and we spent 5.3, or we can account for all of it.
So Joe, I'm confused again. What is the impact fee account gain? How is that a use of funds?
Okay. It's the use of money. What it basically is that we got in that's almost $1 million in impact fees. We spent $355,000 and we had a gain. The impact fee balance went up over the year. Last year, as I mentioned, we ended the year at $5.2 million in our impact fee balance. This year, fiscal year 22, we ended the year at 5.8. So it went up 600,000. Okay?
I understand now.
Okay, that's where it went. So now,
You would call that retained earnings in a for-profit company. So
yeah,
this is-
it's
I
money
got
in the bank. That's where it
Yeah,
went.
yeah.
And actually money in the county accounts, if you would.
So it's not really a use of funds as in it was spent, it was moved over into.
It's a gain.
It's a
Okay.
gain.
It's actually, one way to look at it, the use of the funds was to gain the account balance, or to
Right,
increase the
right,
account balance. So this tells us at a glance what it took to run the library. Rather than looking at individual documents or individual statements, this is what it took to run the library, $5.3 million. And actually, it took less than that because, as you pointed out, we had a gain in account. And that's not an operating expense. So actually, you could say
About 4.7.
the operating expense, all things considered, for the library was 4.7 million. But to keep it simple, let's call it 5.3 million. Are we delivering value to the county for what we do? That's the next question. So we take a look at this, are we delivering value? And I went to another document that you've all seen before, that was in one of our board packages here. We had 84,000 library card holders. Okay? 5.3 divided by 88,000 tells us that the cost per library card holder was about $63. Save the calculation, I know this better. So, the cost per cardholder was $63. Now, if we take a look at what value a cardholder gets for this, and we start with the New York Times subscription, that's worth $50. I went into the New York Times digital subscription index, $50 there. And if someone takes out 2 books at another $50, they pay for the whole thing. But in actuality, 747,000 items were circulated, which comes to about 9 items per individual. So you take a look at the value of that versus $63 that it costs really each cardholder to run this thing, and add to that not just the New York Times subscription, but the Wall Street Journal, Curiosity Stream, Hoopla, Ancestry, programs, periodicals, and so forth. It's easy to say that we are delivering high single-digit multiples of the cost value to our library patrons. It's easy to say that it may cost $63, but you're deriving $500, $600 worth of value out of your library card on an annual basis here. So I can say, with all honesty, looking at the numbers and looking at the value, that the county library does deliver a high level of value to its cardholders, unquestionably.
I have a question for Amanda. Of these 84,662 cardholders, what percentage are not Beaufort County? Because if you're in Jasper County, you're paying $40 a year, correct?
Out of county?
Yeah.
I don't know what the out of county count is from that. Those are just 84,000 active barcodes from our annual report last year. So I would have to run a specific report to find out what would be out of county.
I guess my point is, I believe out of county pays $40.
That's correct.
So when a Jasper County resident wants to access all of our items, they pay $40 for a year.
Yes.
Yes, and they're getting a $63 cost. That's what I was pointing out, because sometimes I have residents in Jasper County say, well, why do I have to pay? That's the amount of money on our property taxes that go to the library. $40 per property tax?
Ish.
Close, okay. But that's why we charge them a fee.
Correct.
Okay. So they're getting a bargain at $40.
They're getting a bargain at 40. Our partnership and participation in South Carolina Lens
Right.
Yeah.
reduces the need for someone out of county to have a card just to borrow physical items. So really that $40 is the cost
It's
that
more
for
for
the
the electronic.
digital.
Right.
Why would someone come from Jasper to Beaufort to get access to South Carolina Lens?
They don't
They-
have to, they can use their Jasper County card to borrow physical items by being a member of South Carolina Lens, but Beaufort County Library, every library is charged on the digital products based on our population, our card holders. So for a South Carolina Lens person who's paying property taxes to Jasper County, I never see that support. So I can't incorporate service to them based on the money that I'm getting from Beaufort County. Does that make sense? When it comes to digital, we have an agreement in South Carolina Lens to share the physical materials at no cost to cardholders, but the digital subscriptions can't go across county lines because of the way we're charged by those
That's
vendors.
the issue. If they're in Jasper County, they're paying the $40 to access digital, but they can access Bookmobile when it comes to Sun City, physical books. Yeah,
At no cost with their home library's card.
right.
So that concludes my report.
All right, anybody have any questions for Joe? It's quite comprehensive.
I had a question, is operating expenses, does that include utilities or is that some?
So, with the streamlining that was done in terms of finance at the county level, we no longer have to pay by department for utilities, that's, facilities gets our portion.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, whenever that happened, they asked us what we kind of had traditionally and what we would have budgeted for, and that's kind of where they based their, yeah.
Okay, any other questions on finances?
No.
Now you can go home and sleep well tonight and have numbers in your head. Okay, foundation, Lynn's Can you hear us?
The foundation, the last held their in-person meeting May the 18th. They discussed virtually approving funding requests to pilot an artisan residence program that the library is talking about doing. And that is going to, we're going to try to get that started the fall of 2022. And then they do not have another meeting set up yet. It'll probably be in September.
All right, thank you. Friends of the library, very important. Beaufort, Brenda, Lance, and Powell.
I'm gonna defer to Amanda, because
Okay.
since the March meeting, we'll miss some travel.
Okay.
They last met on May the 12th at the Beaufort Branch Library and conducted new board member orientation last week on July the 6th. They will resume regular meetings after the summer and likely in August or September.
All right, Bluffton, Roz isn't here, Jim. You want to take that one? Okay, feel free.
The Friends of the Bluffton Library held their most recent meeting on Tuesday, June the 14th. They are redesigning their membership brochure and have launched a short-term strategic plan and to mirror ours and to guide their future efforts.
Hilton and Lynn, do you have a report on that?
Well, they're on vacation and they will be meeting next Tuesday, September the 13th. That's
Okay.
all.
All right, thank you. All right, policies and procedures. I don't think we have any right now. So I'm going to fly past that one. Strategic planning, Janet Porter, and
Yeah.
Brenda's on that, Lynn's on that, Tracy's on that.
I'm gonna ask Amanda to give an update.
At this point, we are on schedule with the timeline that had previously been discussed. All focus groups have been completed. Library administration has received the summary report from the consultant that we hired to facilitate those groups, and we've been reviewing that. The staff survey was distributed to staff on June the 13th. We have received nearly 100% participation on that, and I've already compiled those results for analysis. So we're in the final data gathering activity, which is our community survey. For those of you who are watching this, I encourage you to not only complete the community survey for yourself, but also make sure all of your neighbors know to complete it. It is live on our website in both English and Spanish. It is also available in print at every library location in English and Spanish. So whether it is completed online or in person, we just would like to hear feedback from the community. It will be live until next Friday.
Is it on Facebook?
Maybe. It may also be on social media. I know we posted to try to generate response there. At the conclusion of that survey, we'll compile the results to have for analysis as well. To date, we have received over 1,000 community survey responses.
Yes, I love that.
So we still have one more week to go. I am pleased to tell you that I do know personally that survey link has been shared with your support and others in neighborhood next door, from the county's public information office as well, and has reached as far as the Fusky. So I'm very interested to see what those responses will include and let us know. And that brings us to the next phase, which involves you. Dr. Porter and I have previously talked about the need, you've heard us talk about the need for a very short, half-day at most board retreat for board training, and also to go over the preliminary results of this data that we've received. And she and I have discussed, and I will be sending you a doodle poll this evening or early tomorrow for 2 dates for your preference in the last week of August. And that would be
I was
August
just gonna
25th or 26th. I'm not sure which date will be your preference, but we will likely host that in Bluffton, at the Bluffton Library from 9 to 12. I have a person who is available to give your board training about the roles, responsibilities of a board of trustee, and then we should also have about an hour and a half to go over this data. Is there anything else you want to add?
I just want to add that I was impressed and overwhelmed with the amount of comments from the staff. I mean, they took it very seriously, and there is a lot of qualitative data. I Amanda and I talked about the fact that I would try to summarize it, and it's, you know, a lot of times people just check the boxes, but a lot of qualitative comments from the staff, wouldn't you agree?
And a lot of helpful information from the focus groups, and I personally have input some of the physical or the print community surveys that we have in there, and it's not all just check the box either. Some of those, when offered the opportunity to provide comments, they have provided not just comments, but helpful comments. With realistic suggestions for consideration.
Yeah.
Do you remember how many surveys we got?
Just under 2,000. I knew you were gonna ask.
'Cause I
So
know
we've
tried to push it,
got
yeah.
1 week to go to get
All right, we gotta push it.
1,000 more.
Okay. All right, thank you. Challenge Materials Committee, Joe.
Okay, yes, we were challenged.
You were challenged.
You know, when a patron filed a request for reconsideration, I was involved in this. Actually, the director updated me on this. The incident was handled totally at the administrative level. It was resolved to both the administration's satisfaction and the patron's satisfaction. And it did not have to go to the board at all, or to the Challenge Materials Committee, which would be the next step.
It just shows the system works.
The system
because
works.
The person
System
sent an
worked
email and Amanda responded, then filled out the forms
Yeah.
and everything worked out fine.
Administration satisfied, patron satisfied. That's the way we like it.
Yes. Okay, Library Facilities Committee, so I don't know that we have an update. Do you have one?
Yep.
Okay, because Bernie's not here.
I just want to give you a couple of things where we are with the projects that you're aware of, and where our activities are being focused. I wanted to let you know that I plan to restart the process, or start the process to receive funding approval to do Bluffton Phase 2.
Yeah.
I want to wrap that up. As I mentioned to you, now that we are successfully launched into a new fiscal year, the time is right for me to begin that approval process to get architecture and engineering study, which would be plans on finishing out the upfitting of Bluffton Branch Library. On Sunday, I attended a community meeting at Burton Wells at the request of Councilman Dawson, and the summary of that meeting is that the community confirmed their interest in having library service. More to come on that. And Ms. Howard, I wanted to let you know that we did here at Beaufort conduct a 2-week observation and data finding about parking. And so I do have some information here locally, in addition to these community surveys, that will allow me to go back to the city of Beaufort to share the information that we found directly from people who use this library regarding parking. And those are the only updates I have.
We have an ad hoc committee. You see in your packet, there was a piece of art that they would like to donate to the library. And Lynn, I'll let you take this. It's all in everybody's packet.
All right, we have received a request from the Goddard family who live in Iowa. And they wanted to donate a portrait of their father, who was Dr. Chester Goddard. He was the first full-time doctor on the island and established the first medical clinic, and that was done in Sea Pines in the 60s, I believe. And the clinic was established to serve all the islanders, so it was an important piece of history. We couldn't find a place for the painting, but Mary Jo approved that we could put it into the small conference room. We have room for it there. The painting was painted by Mr. Walter Greer, who's an important landscape artist in the Low Country, and he has not done a lot of portraits. So anyway, I got the approval from Mary Jo to put it in the small conference room. And then I found a local appraiser who's going to appraise it. He sold other Goddard portraits, and he, not portraits, but paintings, and the family has agreed to pay for it. So that, I'm hoping that you'll approve that we will take this portrait, because I think it's a piece of Hilton Head history.
And then we will have to insure it.
So So my
Yes,
question
it'll
is,
be in the insurance
my
program.
question
Yes.
is, Lynn, why isn't, I missed from reading his bio, his connection to the library. I would think they would wanna donate it to the hospital, to Hilton Head Hospital. Do you know
I
if the,
called the Hilton Head Hospital, they said they had no place for it.
Oh,
I called, they originally had contacted, Grace Cordial, no, originally they had contacted the other library, the Heritage Library, and they don't have a place for it. And then they contacted, the Heritage Library contacted Grace Cordial, and she doesn't have a place for it. And so, I also contacted Sea Pines, and nobody seems to want this portrait. I believe that they're going to be working on, well, I don't know, I won't go there, but I think that, I think the portrait belongs here on the island. It's done by a noted artist on the island, and so that's why I went ahead and put the pieces together.
Why wouldn't it go somewhere in Sea Pines since he was down there?
There's no place, they don't have like a historical area, they don't really have an area to put it. They said they don't have a building to put it in, so.
I just wanna say, I don't think this fits in the library.
I agree.
You know, I don't wanna disappoint the family, but I would think given his medical background, it either belongs at the hospital, or if he's a really noted citizen, then it belongs at the, county offices on Hilton Head Island. I don't see the connection to the library.
Well, we have a lot of artwork at the library.
Yes, but this in particular, this person's connection to the library.
A portrait implies, when you accept it, that they had something to do
Right.
with the
To do with it,
organization.
right.
You know, like
Well, that's true. The library also is a place where we kind of keep track of the history of the island, do we not? So I guess that would be the connection that I had thought would work.
Well, let's have a motion to accept the portrait, and then we'll go through the process. Can somebody make a motion?
Lynn should make a motion.
Lynn?
Go ahead.
Lynn.
I'd like to move that we accept this portrait into the library based on its historical interest, and also it's been painted by a local artist, and it will be a piece of art for the library.
Okay, can I have a second to the motion?
Second the motion.
Brenda will second it. Now we'll open for further discussion. And a couple of us already expressed an opinion. Anyone else? Discussion on the motion. Joe?
Yeah, question on this, perhaps Lynn can, is the Sea Pines Medical Center that is cited here, in the write-up of Dr. Goodart, is that now Hilton Head Hospital?
What'd you say? He wants to know, is the Sea Pines Medical Center, that's what's cited here?
It's not there anymore.
Oh, okay, that's easy. It's not there anymore.
So Lynn, could you provide us some perspective, because I always worry about us setting a precedent or what the history has been. So you know the art collection better than anybody else on, here today. Do we have a history of accepting portraits, for example, of noted citizens and put them in our art collection? Do you know if there's any history there?
There's not history. The focus for the art collection is very much on the artists, the different mediums. We have a variety of different mediums, we have a variety of different local artists, and we have a variety of different subjects. We have a lot of children on the beach, so we have a lot of, I can't even remember if we have a lot of, I don't think we have a lot of Goa, but we have some portraits that kind of are that kind of thing, subject matter portraits of people, but not portraits.
Where is the author of this portrait? I guess I didn't see it.
Where,
The artist.
where,
Yeah, who's there?
That's what I was looking for.
Who is the artist? You said they're local?
Oh, yeah.
this was
What's it
painted in
there?
1968,
Oh, it's on that one.
and the artist is no longer with us.
Okay, Further discussion on the motion, which is to accept this piece of artwork for the library collection. All right, then I'll call the question. All in favor of accepting this piece of artwork, raise your hand, signify by aye if you're in favor of it. Okay.
I'm, because of I think I'm just looking at the history of it and everything, library's history, I don't know, it's kind of, it's like a yes and a no, but I'm gonna go ahead and say yay.
Okay, I have 2 yes, all not in favor of accepting the artwork. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we are not accepting the artwork, Lynn. Oh, Lynn, I assume you voted yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 4 no and 3 for, 3 in favor. So we will not be accepting the artwork.
Okay, doke, I'll let the family know.
Thanks for doing the work on that though, Lynn.
So where would it end?
So what?
Where would it end up?
I think you should go to Iowa where he lived and spent his life,
Yeah.
right?
I think I was just looking at more of the history side of it and what he accomplished over there.
My concern would be, do we accept portraits of everyone that had an impact on the library or, not library, on Hilton Head Island or every other island?
Yeah, that's why it's like a yes and a no.
Yeah, I think somebody goes by the portrait of him and reads the bio and says, well, I've got a picture of grandma.
Right,
And, you know, she owned one of the early restaurants or something. you know,
that's what I'm
And
concerned
then
about.
says to us, well, you put his picture in, you know, she ran the earliest restaurant.
Okay,
That's
thank
why
you.
some, a lot of these, it could be yes or no, you know, if it goes
Yeah,
either way,
yeah.
you know, so, but yeah. But that's not a bad idea.
I don't think so. All right, we have no other old business. I had put in the board orientation in there, so you beat me to it. Anyone have new business? As an announcement, our next meeting is September 14th, Hilton Head Library.
When is that? Say it again.
September 14th, I have Hilton Head Library. Okay, we do have a need for executive session pursuant to South Carolina Code
Hilton Head.
30-4-70.
Hilton Head.
We're gonna talk about possible purchase or use of land, so we're gonna go to executive session. So, can I have a motion to go to executive session, please? Thank you, Brenda. Terry will second it. All in favor, we'll go to executive session.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. If you would turn All right, we're coming out of executive session, no vote was taken, we simply had a discussion, so now I'm gonna turn it to Amanda.
One last thing I forgot to call your attention to is you each have received tonight a reference manual for South Carolina Public Library trustees as provided and published by the South Carolina State Library. In addition to that, you have received a small pamphlet with a condensed version of that. I'm gonna ask that you review those between now and the next time we have our board retreat, so this gives you some pre-packaged homework to prepare.
Good to know.
Sounds good.
Good.
All right, so, anybody have anything else for a new item? Then I'll take a motion to adjourn, please.
I second.
Okay, who gave the motion?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
All right, Susanna moves, Tracy second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned until September, thank you.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.